Who am I going to get to lead us in the pledge?
Julie was raising her hand back there.
Who's the girl? Lead us in the pledge. We'd all stand and face the flag.
Could be worse. Yeah, give us some prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you turn on your microphone?
Apologize. The consent agenda passed unanimously on motion by Councilmember Price and second by Councilmember DiPolito. On the mayor's report, we have a number of resolutions to consider. The first is H.R. 1. H.R. 1 is the bill which would limit assessments on commercial and residential property to a maximum 3% increase. It would. I'm particularly concerned with this resolution in that it applies to commercial property and it does provide for a reappraisal when there's sales. But Mr. DiPolito would probably concur with me that you can structure commercial property such that it will never sell, and that's a major flaw in here. And so I'm very much concerned about how this applies to commercial real property. Has the council had an opportunity to review the resolution? I don't see any question. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further comments or questions by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At the request of Representative Geisinger, we've taken House Bill 480. We're going to continue that to next week. We'll reconsider it again. He's asked for more time to discuss this with GMA and look at the estimates on how much revenue with this was raised. And in deferral to Representative Geisinger, who's been a great deal of help to us on a number of bills, we're pulling this off the agenda tonight. The next bill is approval of a resolution in support of Georgia House Legislation 1093 and 1137. Ms. Davidson, would you refresh my memory as to what those bills are about?
These bills would basically take the business and regulatory permitting information from the city and send it to the Department of Revenue. And this would help ensure that all people who are responsible for paying sales taxes do so even to the state government as well as the city governments.
Start over again? And how do they do that?
Basically, it would create a database, and we would send our information to the database from all of our business licensing.
To assist them in finding if everybody's paid.
Correct.
And the only cost to us would be just, it's sent electronically, so there'd be minimal cost to us.
That's my understanding.
They've run a pilot program in Gainesville, and they've been successful in collecting more sales tax. And so even it's always possible for them to screw things up, but I think this one's a win-win situation. Does the council have any questions about this bill? Do we have a motion? Motion for approval by Nancy Diamond, second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Environmental Public Works Liaison, Councilmember Becky Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the agenda tonight, we have approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with Strickland Pipe and Construction for the construction of the water line along Sway Branch Drive in the amount of $91,950. This is a CDBG-R stimulus grant funded project. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is one of three projects along this section of Sway Branch Drive and the right at Market Boulevard or Market Street. And this is the water line connection. There will also be a roadway connection, the third project being a stormwater project. This project will provide a loop for the system that will substantially improve fire flow and pressure regulation. This was the low bid meeting requirements for this project. It is within the budgeted amount, and we recommend your approval. Be glad to take any questions.
The bid was $90,000. What did we originally estimate this would cost?
We had originally estimated about $100,000 in the CDBG account. There's $104,534 currently available, so we are within that. The CDBG R designation means this is part of the stimulus package, so it's required to be substantially complete by June the 7th. Which,
So time is of the essence.
yes, sir.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Mooring? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Ken Eigelhart, liaison to our Recreation and Parks Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our only item tonight is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with PE Structures or Atlantic for the Barrington Hall Steps project in the amount of $49,350 and approval of budget amendment 6110 CP-03-315-10 in the amount of $50,000. And we'll let Joe tell us about that.
Mr. Glover, do you have a sketch of what this would look like we can put on the overhead? Pretty close.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eigelhart. As Mr. Eigelhart mentioned, we did request a budget amendment of $50,000 to go for this project. Also, we had 7 bidders for the steps at Barrington Hall. The low bid came in at $49,350. The original drawing was a little different as I presented to at the committee meeting. We went to HPC last week. They unanimously approved this drawing with no recommendations for anything different. They were happy with this plan, and we'd like to go ahead and move forward.
We have a motion for approval. Motion by Councilmember Eigelhart. Do we have a second? We have a second. We have a question from Councilmember DiPolito. Second was by Councilmember Orlins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Glover, I like option 2. I think it's a good one. The railing looks different than the railing from our other sketch. I just noticed this going through the package the other day. Is the railing, is it going to match what we have across the street at the historic square?
It'll be like Town Square.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Does the council have any other questions? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Just come forward, please. You'll give us your name and address and fill in a speaker card before you leave tonight. We would appreciate it.
Well, my name is Sandy Passman. Hi, Council and Mayor. I'm here asking a couple of questions about this. My first question is about the money that's been allocated to it. Last year, when you were going through the budget process, you had quite a lot of discussion about whether you should go into reserves or not. And I think the steps are pretty. I like them, but I can't help but wonder if this isn't a nice to have rather than a have to have, like sanitation equipment or fire equipment. And in this economy, couldn't this be put on the back burner for right now? The second thing is I saw this picture in the newspaper the other day, and I have a couple of concerns in regards to there are actually two walls there, and when the original drawing was done and approved, there was a lot of conversation that the sidewalk would actually be along the first wall rather than down at the street for safety reasons. And with this drawing, I really don't see that that can be accomplished. And maybe it's just the drawing, but the wrought iron doesn't look like it ties in with the wall, which I was a little bit concerned about. And then since the first drawing was the one that was approved for the $49,000, my question would be, is this one going to cost more or less than what was originally approved and budgeted?
Glover, if you'll come to the microphone, we'll see if we can answer some of those questions. We can start with the last question first. Do you expect this to cost more or less than the other project?
No, the contractor's going to do it the exact same price. The differences between the two, there's a little less wall to install on these steps, but there's more handrail. So they kind of offset and balance themselves a little bit, and it doesn't think there's going to be any additional cost at all.
There was a question regarding, at one time there was discussed of the sidewalk not being at street level but above the first wall.
That was discussed 2 years ago at the HPC meeting. They asked to look at that. There's not enough room to actually put that in without taking out all the landscape whatsoever. I mean, everything would have to go out. And it was just a suggestion at that time. It was never asked to do that particular project that way.
Now, where is the funding coming from this project?
The funding is being transferred from a drainage project we had at Grimes Bridge Park. That we found a more economical way of handling that project, and the balance of the funds is coming from that. We had hoped originally that the balance of funds would have come from the Town Square project, but we actually spent all that money.
Another question was, is this a project which is essential for the operation of the city? It clearly isn't. On the other hand, I think this is a project which would give more people access to Barrington Hall, which is a cultural resource. I think it would benefit the city. It's not coming out of reserves. It's coming out of savings from last year. So I do support this project. And I apologize if I've missed any other questions. Yes, Councilmember Wynn.
I think there's two other things that Ms. Passman brought up. One is the connection of the railing to the wall, because there's a gap, and the other one is where will the sidewalk be located, if at all located? And I know you said where it was not going to be located, but is the sidewalk still going to go? Where's going the location of the sidewalk?
Okay, first, the railings will be tied into the wall. This is just a conceptual drawing. The way it's drawn, it looks like there is a gap. There will not be a gap when the railings are put in there. They'll all be tied into the walls as it rounds off, tied into to the walls themselves. What was your other question?
The location of the sidewalk, when we decide to put one in.
But really not a sidewalk. Once you come down to the landing, there'll be the concrete and a brick plaza, and that's right there at the curb. So there's about 10 or 12 feet from the bottom of the steps to the curb. So you got the crosswalks coming in from both sides will come in to that brick plaza little landing area. So it's really not a sidewalk there.
And I think the other one was make sure that there was not something else that you could use this money for in your Rexham Park Department budget. Was another question that wasn't that right, Ms. Passman? Could this money be better used somewhere else in your Rexham Park budget?
We could use this money for a lot of different purposes, but this was one of the priorities that we had come up with. As the mayor said, we feel it's very, very important to get some steps up to Barrington to get better pedestrian access, because it's very difficult for people to go from the Visitor Center to Bullock Hall and have to drive around every time to get to Barrington. So we think this is going to be a major improvement to Barrington Hall.
Does anyone else have any questions? Councilmember Price.
You said that the railing would be tied into the wall. I know there's been some discussion about removal of the upper wall. Is that part of any current or future discussion?
The removal of additional upper wall, we presented to HPC and, of course, to y'all at the committee meeting and suggested that we do not touch that because we do not have enough money to take any other wall out. And HPC or the HRA group, we suggested if they feel strongly about it, that they should propose that at a later date and make it a complete separate project.
Any other questions? Any further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Rich DiPolito, liaison to the Transportation Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the transportation agenda is approval of the scoping phase for historic gateway projects along SR9 Atlanta Street in the amount of $1,897,761 and approval of a budget amendment 4210 CP-03-15-10 to establish the project account 10TRA002. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilman DiPolito. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight is a historic night for the City of Roswell. The Transportation Department is asking the City Council to take the first step in eliminating a safety issue that has been with this city for the last 40 years. I have a brief briefing I'd like to show you real quick, just to refresh your memory. As you recall, the staff did an analysis of what eliminating of the reversible lanes could look like, and we produced this rendering. The scope of the project basically boils down to the elimination of the reversible lanes along State Route 9 from State Route 120 to the Chattahoochee River, an intersection improvement along Atlanta Street at Azalea Riverside Drive, and also a new bridge over Vickery Creek. To recap, the staff has created this concept-sensitive design, which is a solution. Our next step is to hire a consultant and to begin the formal process. We have estimated in-house, and we've hired other consultants to help us estimate the magnitude of this project. We've come to the conclusion that at $1.8 million is about the right number to begin this process. The process would include the concept design, alternatives analysis as required by the National Environmental Policy Act, which is the environmental document, the public involvement period, environmental preliminary plans, and get to the preliminary field plan review, which would put us in a position to begin to acquire right-of-way. In order to move forward with this project, we must be in the regional TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan, for the ARC. The ARC recently approved a new concept called a scoping phase, which we can do, and we're asking your permission to enter that into that tonight, which would allow us to begin the work of the preliminary design and environmental document without being fully funded for the entire document. This will get us into the regional TIP and will allow us to apply for federal funding to help us go forward with this. We're required to be in the TIP in order to apply for federal funding. The urgency for us tonight is that the window is open, and we have several months that we can apply for this scoping phase. If we don't get in line now and get into the TIP now, it may be 3 to 4 years before that cycle will repeat itself and give us another opportunity for us to get in there. The next step would, the Roswell Department of Transportation will reprogram some existing federal FY 2010 funds. We do not need any new funds in FY 2011 for next year. We will notify GDOT that we're going to pursue this scoping phase, and we've already done that verbally. We'll do that formally. We'll begin the procurement of the consultant to work with us on this, and then we'll drop the administrative modification into the TIP in May. And a timeline looks like this. Tonight we're here. As soon as we, if this passes tonight, we'll immediately notify GDOT. We'll begin the procurement of the consultant. We'll drop the project into the TIP here, and then we'll begin selection of the consultant, bring it back to the committee for approval, to the mayor and council for approval and issue them the notice to proceed the later part of this summer.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Eisenbrock? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. First, I'd like to say thank you, Steve, for a very thorough presentation. I think this is an excellent project. It's really the gateway to our city, so it's really important that this street is both efficient and also is a nice entrance into the city. So I think this project has the potential to increase safety, to improve transportation, and to promote redevelopment. So for all those reasons, I move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Yes, sir. Councilmember Price.
Can you give us a long-range time frame, and also will this include, at some point, burial of utilities?
Don't know about burial of utilities. Certainly that will be something that will be included in our alternatives analysis. As far as a timeline, with the mill ruins and the National Park Service, Grimes Bridge was sort of an indicator. It'll probably take 2 to 3 years to work through those processes. So we've got a long road to hoe.
The federal government could assist us with funding, that would move things quicker. And with the Park Service, that would be very helpful. So 2 to 3 years would be
light speed.
Light speed, given the scope of this project. It's a major project.
Yes, sir.
As Mr. DiPolito suggested, we have the potential of removing a 3-lane highway, which is a very dangerous highway, and making a skinny 4 lanes, which we believe would benefit and be much safer. It's a stylish, skinny 4 lane. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Passes unanimously.
The next item is approval of an ordinance to update Article 22.2.5, designated truck routes of the Roswell Code of Ordinances. This is the second reading. Mr. Eisenbrock.
Thank you, Councilman DiPolito. This revision to our existing ordinance will clean up a number of changes that have occurred in the city since 2002 when it was last updated. Due to a series of annexations and land changes, our boundaries have changed, and we need to bring the current ordinance into conformity with our existing boundaries.
Do we have a motion to approve? Oh, we need a reading of the ordinance.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the Roswell City Council setting truck routes on certain streets. Now, therefore, to accomplish the foregoing, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 22, Traffic and Motor Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Roswell, Georgia, is amended by deleting therefrom Article 22.2.5, designated truck routes, and substituting in lieu thereof a new Article 22.2.5 to read as set forth in the appendix attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. And if approved, this will be the second reading.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Our city attorney is recommending closure to discuss personnel and acquisition of real estate. Do we have a motion for closure?
Motion.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Okay. I got a question.